Hi guys, so today's video is gonna be a bit of a ramble video. I haven't scripted it, I haven't really thought of it. I was just walking back home. Can you hear the wind? I hope you can't really hear the wind. I don't know. The struggle, I'm not sure. So yeah, I was just thinking of this walking back home, and also there were a few events about, I don't know, maybe a week ago or something that just really made me think of this. And I want to talk about the sexualization and the objectification of women, but most precisely I want to talk about the sexualization of young women and very young women, and I want to say even teenagers. I think it occurred to me, I mean, I think we're all kind of aware of this, you know, different reasons, either because we think it's completely fine, or because we take part in this, or because we're revolted and we think there's something wrong with it. I think it's pretty obvious though, for many different reasons. First of all, like the very obvious, you know, pattern that's like the schoolgirl, or like the young girl, or like the submissive sort of girl, like sort of fantasy that seems to be very present in lots of porn movies, for example. She's most of the time very absent when it comes to boys. It's not as common, at least. It's also just the simple fact that we see it every day. We see older men, you know, hitting on younger women, much younger women on a daily basis. We tell our little girls and our teenagers to be careful because, you know, men could just talk to them or touch them or kidnap them even, and that's not something we tell to younger boys. And it's both because they're women, but it's also because they're younger. And because they're young, it's not even about the fact that they're younger, it's because they're young, which is exactly where I think the problem arises. And it's a very unsettling and sort of like this disturbing thing, you know. We also see it and we also know about it because if you're a girl, if you're a woman, you've been most likely subjected to it. I remember when I was 16, when I was 17, even when I was 15, I experienced very frequently, you know, just being hit on by men that were obviously much older than me, or even if they were not much older than me, I was still very young and I was still, you know, underage, and I was not mature, and I was not looking for this kind of relationship. I'm not saying that if you're under 18 or under 21 you can't be in a relationship. That's really not what I'm saying. And I'm not even saying you can't be in relationships with people who are older than you. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you're not mature, if you're not actively looking into that kind of relationship, if you're just being a teenager or a child and someone comes up to you and thinks of you differently, it's wrong. It's so frequent. And you know, when you're young, you already think it's disturbing and you already think there's something wrong about it, but you don't see yourself from an external point of view, so you're not even completely aware of how young you look. And that's something I've realized quite recently. Sometimes I walk back home and I'm like, you know, passing by schools or middle schools or high schools, and I look at high schoolers and like 16-year-old or 17-year-old girls, and I'm like, they look so young. I mean, there's also something else. I'm very concerned with how older they try to look and how they want to behave like women and not take advantage of the fact that they're kids and teenagers, but that's another subject and that's another video probably. But you know, they look so young still. You can see that they're so young. And when I was 16 or 17, I was not realizing how young I looked. I was not aware of how young I looked for someone who was older and someone who was an adult. So now that I'm aware of this, it's even more disturbing to me to think that men are gonna, you know, go after those girls that look so young, that feel so young, that act so young. And recently I was just correcting, you know, not dissertation, I was correcting tests and like, you know, just little things that some of my students had written in French, and one girl who is I think 21 and who looks really young, she wrote to me that when she first arrived in Paris, she went to one hotel and she was waiting in the lobby for whatever, and a guy much older, like 50 years old or something, came to her and started, you know, flirting with her. And she wrote in the letter that she was very surprised and stuff, but he was quite charming despite being older, and that they exchanged numbers and whatever. And it's not that bad, you know, but it's just the fact that, you know, there are guys out there who are voluntarily trying to just hunt, I want to say, because that's really the word that fits the best in my opinion. Try to really get you know, young girls, not even younger girls, but young girls. And it's just like, why? You know, what's motivating you? I also realize, and that's also a shocking fact, while I'm still being sexualized and objectified and men still come up to me and talk to me and blah blah blah, I don't get it as much as I used to when I was 16 to 21. And it's just so wrong, because that's logically when it could be more like acceptable for men to do it. No, I don't get even half as much of like the attention, the masculine attention that I would get when I was 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And it's just so wrong and disturbing, and I realized this very recently, and I was like, shit, did I just get old? And then I was like, wait, what are you even thinking? First of all, you're not old. Second of all, it's not an issue. I was like, that's really nice that I'm not, you know, getting as much attention. But then I was like, oh my god, does this mean that I got old? You know, and you know how much I don't want to get old. And then I realized you're not old. You're just not young. You're just not young anymore, or young to the point that you would be seen as perhaps an easy prey. And I can't help but think that, you know, men who actively search for younger women just want objects, you know. When you're, it's not to say that when you're young you're an object, but when you're young you're most likely much more I don't know, you're more likely to be influenced or impressed or easy to manipulate. It's easier to scare you, it's easier to use you, and it's easier to have someone in front of you who is just for the pleasure of the eyes, and who is not able to, you know, just talk back or get back to the person. And when you're, you know, trying to flirt with older women, or when you're trying to have a relationship with older women, you're not in that position of being super powerful and dominant, and just, you know, it makes you question your identity, in the sense that every positive and healthy relationship makes you question your identity, because you're exchanging with someone. You have to talk about yourself, you have to position yourself, and obviously it leads to you knowing yourself better, but also you being possibly more vulnerable, more honest, and having to face yourself. And I think that is something that a lot of men don't want to do, because they feel so frightened in their identity and their masculinity that it becomes so much easier for them to go to young women. But it's just wrong, you know. It's wrong because they're children and they're teenagers, and they want to live and they want to experience life, and they just want to be themselves without having to be sexualized or objectified, or having to protect themselves, you know, at such a young age. I mean, no women should have to protect herself, but it's just even more just revolting when it's happening to younger women. And I see it more and more, and obviously you see it in porn, you see it in the way that women are most, you know, like they're submissive, or if they, you know, just play dumb, or if they don't talk bad, or if they're not assertive, or if, you know, they have to try to look always flawless and hairless and skinny and slim, which is obviously linked to youth and very early youth. And I mean, so many things obviously, you know, are like the manifestation and the proof of this over-sexualization and sexualization of young women. And it's just disturbing, because it's not even young women, it's children and teenagers. I just wanted to talk about it because it's not something I've really talked about before, and I'm obviously not, you know, telling anything really new, but I think it's an important subject and I wanted to talk about it. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching this video, guys. I hope it was interesting, and let me know what you think of this, and if you've experienced anything similar. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Bye!